We're going to take a look at the top remaining NFL free agents on today's show with day 4 of NFL free agency underway. Before we get started, though, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We've been pushing out so much content throughout this week, and no matter where I am when breaking news happens, we break it down on Philadelphia Eagles Now. For instance, late night last night, Darius Slay tweeted out that he was returning to the Birds. We talked about it. We're on the road to 43,000 subscribers. How quickly can we get there? Bird Gang, show up, show out, and if you love the Birds, smart decision is to subscribe to the channel. We're 436 people away from 43K. So subscribe right now, and with that, let's start the show. Today's Philadelphia Eagles Now is sponsored by RexMD, the #1 leader in men's telehealth. You can see for yourself at rexmd.com/chat, a great deal that we'll tell you about later on today's show. I do want to start off Philadelphia Eagles Now today. I'm Chase Sr. Appreciate all of you for joining us with this poll question. Some pretty good moves, in my opinion, made by Howie Roseman up to this point. So I want you to grade the Eagles free agency period so far as we are in day 4 of free agency. A, B, C, D, or F, you let me know down below. As for the Philadelphia Eagles areas of need, these are really a lot of the positions that we're going to hone in on today's show. Defensive tackle, safety, linebacker, right guard, and wide receiver 3 if Philadelphia doesn't have faith that Quez Watkins can be that guy. Let's begin with the top remaining wide receivers. Certainly some interesting names here on this list. It includes Adam Thielen, Odell Beckham Jr., DJ Chark, and Mecole Hardman. After Paris Campbell just signed with the New York Giants, that could really set the market for a guy like Mecole Hardman, who's a better player. Paris Campbell signed 1 year for under $4 million, and I think that Hardman's going to be able to get a lot more than that. I like DJ Chark, the player, a lot, but he's missed a lot of time over the last couple of years. The same can be said for Odell Beckham Jr. Didn't even play in 2022 because of that torn ACL that he suffered in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, but when he's right, I still believe that he's a really dynamic player. We saw that a couple of years ago at the Los Angeles Rams, and an intriguing name here is certainly Adam Thielen. He's had a lot of production throughout his NFL career. He was more of a cap casualty by the Minnesota Vikings. They wanted to let him go to free up some cap space. It wasn't really coming down to the fact that he's not a good player any longer, and if you were to be in this receiver room, it's not like you're counting on him to be the go-to guy or a number 2 wide receiver. He'd be wide receiver 3 in some instances. He'd be wide receiver 4 alongside, of course, Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. And if you go up against a defense that you believe you can exploit with a vertical weapon like Quez Watkins, you give him some significant snaps. So with that, another poll question here on the show. Do the Eagles need to upgrade wide receiver 3? Are you tired of Quez Watkins just not living up to the hype? Y for yes or N for no. Obviously, the thought here has to do with Quez Watkins. If Philadelphia is not confident that he can take that stride, then they can sign a reinforcement. And I do believe that you can get a reinforcement for a pretty affordable price. A whole lot more to break down on Philadelphia Eagles Now, but first, let's tell you more about RexMD, a great deal that we want to tell you about. RexMD.com/chat. 90% cheaper than generic brands like Cialis or Viagra. And fellas, do you sometimes lack confidence in the bedroom? We've all had those nights where we get a little bit too nervous or maybe had too much to drink. There's nothing worse than not being able to put the stick shift in drive when you need it the most, but have no fear. RexMD is here spreading cheer even when you have too many beers. RexMD is FDA approved and the most trusted leader in men's telehealth. They have sponsored today's Eagles Now to help you always be prepared. They have made it simple, easy, and cost-effective to help all the men out there last longer and feel more confident in the sheets. RexMD makes getting generic and branded Viagra or Cialis very easy, and everything's online, even the prescription. They deliver it discreetly to your door. No waiting rooms, no embarrassing trips to the doctor, no insurance, and no copays. So take advantage of their best deal they've ever offered and save up to 90% off and only pay $2 per dosage. With our exclusive link, head to RexMD rexmd.com/chat for this limited time deal. Starter packs of generic Viagra or Cialis are now available for our viewers and listeners to get started. That's rexmd.com/chat, up to 90% off. Now let's shift gears to the Eagles' offensive line. It has been a priority for a long while to re-sign Isaac Seumalo, and I'm somewhat interested that the market has been as such, where he hasn't signed with the team yet, or at least fielded a lot of monster offers out there, because he's probably the best right guard in free agency. Does that mean that Howie Roseman is trying to finagle the cat, move some dollars around to find a way to bring him in? Potentially. 17 games played last year, only 1 sack allowed, Pro Football Focus grade of 75.2, a pass blocking grade elite at 79.1, run blocking grade 69.5. He played a total of 1,135 snaps, that aforementioned 1 sack allowed, only 3 hits, 20 pressures allowed to go alongside 6 penalties. A great developmental story as a guy who came out of Oregon State. He's linked up with Jeff Stoutland. He's turned himself into a really good player who does deserve the bag. Started off his career as a left guard, now flourishing as a right guard. Now, from a financial standpoint, if Isaac Seumalo does move on, Philadelphia Eagles could use Cam Jurgens at right guard. He was drafted to be the future Jason Kelce replacement. It's great that Jason Kelce is coming back, and it's great that he's still the highest paid center in the NFL at a salary of north of $14 million for 2023. Whenever Jason Kelce does decide to retire, hang it up, he'll go down as the best Eagles center of all time, one of the best centers of all time. Then Cam Jurgens can move on into that center role. But for now, you'd save a lot of money if you let Seumalo walk and move Jurgens to that right guard spot, and they are just so agile on that right side of the line of scrimmage with Kelce, Jurgens, and of course Lane Johnson. If you want to give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram, I'd certainly appreciate it. Been putting a lot of stuff on my Instagram page trying to grow that. It's at Chase_Senior on both social media platforms. Give me a follow. Feel free to say what's up and shoot me a DM. To defensive tackle. Bringing back Fletcher Cox, I think it was a good move for Philadelphia. 1 year, $10 million, and that was below what his market value was because a lot of teams were offering Fletcher Cox a little bit more. But right now, you're looking at a situation in which you have Tuipulotu. I butchered that name. I'm sorry, but please forgive me. They also have Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, and Fletcher Cox. They still need another defensive tackle. Now, could they draft one? Could they sign one in NFL free agency? Here are the defensive tackles available that make sense to me. Shelby Harris, Michael Brockers, Quinton Jefferson, Derrick Nnadi, and Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, the latter two, of course, former Eagles from last year. All of these players could come at a pretty discounted price. And I have a conspiracy theory here. Here's my conspiracy theory. Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean have loved their tenures with the Philadelphia Eagles so much, and they envision having big roles for this team moving forward, that they hit up Jalen Carter and they said, look, I understand you're dealing with the legal situation right now. That's, of course, nothing to joke about, but in your pro day, just tank it. Show up 9 pounds overweight. Get winded in your drills. Fall all over the place, so that you can follow the Philadelphia Eagles at number 10, and then you can be alongside Jordan Davis at defensive tackle on that defensive line. That's my conspiracy theory. It's not real. That's why it's called a conspiracy theory. Another reminder to subscribe to the show. Free agency buzz. We've been all over it. NFL draft prospect analysis. All you have to do is look at the previous videos on the channel. The receipts are there. And breaking news coverage. Whenever it happens, we're here to talk about it. Could the Eagles use some depth at defensive end? You already have Brandon Graham. You have Josh Sweat. Hassan Reddick, kind of that hybrid linebacker edge. Here's the thing about this defensive end class. Some really good players here. Leonard Floyd, Frank Clarke, Yannick Ngakoue, Justin Houston, as well as Jadeveon Clowney. Yannick Ngakoue was a player who so many Eagles fans were clamoring for a couple of years ago, and I just don't understand how Ngakoue doesn't have more of a market in free agency. This is a guy who's 27 years old. Every season that he's been in the league, he's had at least 7 or 8 sacks per season, and over his last 4, he has steadily gotten after the opposing quarterback, which is what you need to do in the guts of a playoff game to seal the deal. That's what the Eagles didn't do against the Kansas City Chiefs, thanks to that awful grass surface in the desert. But you look at the production last year, 9.5 sacks. The year before that, 10. Year before that, 8. Year before that, 8. Every year that he's been in the NFL, this guy has been a sack machine. I just don't understand why his market is still dry. To top free agent linebackers now. These are inside linebackers. If you don't have confidence in Nakobe Dean to step in for TJ Edwards, I do think that Shaun Bradley could be a guy to get a lot of snaps. Been some buzz that the Eagles could show some interest in Bobby Wagner. Zach Cunningham might be washed, but the Eagles have had these reclamation projects with guys who seem to be down and out and a little bit older, or sometimes trying to find their footing in their NFL career. Deion Jones, really athletic, but has been off injured the last couple of years. Devin Bush, Denzel Perryman. Some intriguing names. Perriman expected to visit with the Houston Texans. And then Jarrad Davis, Kyle Van Noy, Anthony Walker, Kwon Alexander, and Jon Bostic. All those players trending a little bit older. To safety now. The latest on CJ Gardner-Johnson. Denver Broncos have entered the mix. I talked about this last night during that Darius Slay breaking news video. Looks as though right now it is a two-horse race between Denver and Philadelphia. And the same can be said for Chauncey Gardner-Johnson that I said for Isaac Seumalo. These are two of the top players at their respective positions. You'd think that they would sign somewhere already, but it's Howie Roseman talking to them as well as their agents, and he's like, hey, look, we understand that you have a market out there. Just wait and be patient. We're trying to move some money around like an old school cocaine dealer to try to find a way to sign you and bring you in. And Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is a guy who has a vast market out there. He also tweeted just moments ago, the disrespect is real. Is that from Philadelphia? Is that a dry marketplace? I find that hard to believe. Is that from the Denver Broncos? Who knows? All I know, I need CJ Gardner-Johnson back in Philadelphia, and I need him in Philadelphia for the next 4 or 5 years. That's the deal that I'm willing to put on the table. So with that, our final question, which free agent do the Eagles need to sign? Let us know. Drop us a name or names down in the comment section. Share your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe. And as always, appreciate all of y'all for watching.